Hello. So we're gonna go briefly over Figma prototyping, just so you know the basics. And we're gonna make rapid prototypes. So I don't want you to spend too much time in Figma, but just like get an overall understanding of what you want to do for the project. Put it out visually so you can always like reference it. Just go to figma.com and you can create a profile. And if you put in your UT email, then you can get a free, like, advanced version of Figma. So just go ahead and do that. This is my project on this profile. And I'm just doing like a basic interactive home. Your ideas should be more interesting than this. This is just an example project. The idea here is that I'm going to make a little website, a storytelling website. And I want to create like these interactions that like walk you through a space. And so in this one, it'll just be like a simple home. And so you'll, if you press play here, I'll show you how to do all this. But this is the one I've already made. So you click on the door, the door takes you to a hallway, and you can see that there's a few gray doors. So these are the clickable doors. And then if you click on the left, you go into this living room space. You can go back to the hallway. If you click on the right, you go to a kitchen space. You can go back. And then when you click on the main door, you exit out and you can like start all over again, right? So it's just super simple to show you how this works. So just for the quick, super rapid, meaning get it done as quickly as possible prototyping, instead of drawing everything out, I'm just using Canva graphics. So I went into canva.com and created a project, and am simply just on each page, I selected these elements and I looked up door, and I grabbed just very basic black and white graphics and try to keep them all pretty consistent aesthetically. Whenever you're going to create your projects, you need to create your own graphics, your own drawings, your own icons. I want you to make your own. Do not use other people's. So for the sketching is fine, but for the project, you need to create your own. And then from here, I just you go share and download, and you can create PNGs out of these images. So we are in Figma, and you're just gonna go to new design file, and you'll see this area here on the left. Here's your project title, which for me is gonna be Interactive Home 2, and files and assets, pages, which you only need page 1, and then we're gonna create layers with things called frames, which are the same thing as artboards. So don't make page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4 and expect to link them together. I accidentally did that, and that is not the way. So the way is to create layers on only one page. Okay, so on the right here, you can see we can change the design. You can go to prototype and eventually add interactions between different elements on this workspace. And then down here, we've got some tools. So here, move, hand scale, frame, selection, slice, different shapes here that you can use. We got the pen tool, pencil, text, applying a message, and then various other things that you can use with AI. Here is a nice little dev mode. You might have to have a higher version of Figma or like Figma Pro, which you can get for free with your UT email. Definitely want to have this for this project, because over here you can inspect whatever elements you put onto this workspace, and you can like go to HTML and change it to CSS. I'll come back to this later, so click it again to get out of Dev Tools, and let's go ahead and start adding in layers. So I'm going to create my first space, And I just went down here to add a shape, and it's just going to be a rectangle. And in the design here, under fill, I'm just going to click on this and make it white. I'm going to come over and get those images that I save and drag and drop it into the space, and it's very big, so you can do shift, scale it down, just like Photoshop. Click on your image and you're in the design tab here. You can crop it. You can also crop it by clicking here and then double clicking on one of the corner rectangles. And then control scroll to scroll in if you want to be a little bit more perfect. Since this is a rapid prototype, I'm not going to be perfect. You can click on your image and over here add an effect. And I'm going to add a drop shadow here. Oh look, I'm in the way. Let me move myself real quick. Whee! So yeah, in effects, drop shadow, and click on that. And I'm just going to do like 6 and 6. I want to go in the negative X direction, so changing that to -6. I'm clicking on the scroll wheel to pan. Alrighty, so we've got 2 elements over here. I'm just gonna highlight both of them, right click, and frame selection. So frames are gonna act as our pages. We'll rename this frame door, and that is going to be our home page essentially. Let's go ahead and in this frame, we'll take this rectangle and Control D for duplicate and drag it out of that frame and pull it over next to it. Now we're going to add in that hallway, drag and drop this image, do the same thing with the hallway that I did with the door. Cool, and we'll create a second frame. Title it hallway. And the way that I made little gray sections here is I went to the pen tool and I just selected the corners of these doors. Not being too picky. If you click enter, it turns into a shape. And in design over here, you can go over into fill and change the color, whatever you want. I'm gonna keep it gray. Also here in effects, instead of drop shadow, I'll do inner shadow so it looks like it's being pushed in a bit, like it's a, sort of a hallway. So I'm just gonna click on that and Control D for duplicate, pull it over, right click it, and flip horizontal and put it into that door right there. Voila. I'm gonna just come over to my door that I created, take that, Control D, and drag it into the hallway. Now, I'll just make it smaller. Not really worried about the scale at the minute, but if I was, I'd be pressing Shift. I want to make it a little bit gray, so I will add a rectangle over the top of the door. And in fill, just lower the opacity a bit, make the color a bit darker, so it sort of like gets pushed into the distance. Now we have our frame 1, frame 2, and this door and this door is going to go to the living room and the kitchen. I'm just going to sort of branch out in the way that I plan on having these interactions take place. I'm going to create a sort of flow chart just based off of the way that I place the next frames. Duplicate the door and grab it over here, and I'm going to take out my door image and replace it So I had used a button here from Canva, but I'm gonna have to recreate the button and I'll show you why in a second. Rename this living room, duplicate it, and rename this kitchen. Over here where my frames are, I think I'm just gonna reorganize them. So the door, hallway, living room from left to right, and kitchen. Cool. All right, so last design thing that we need to do is make our button. Come over here, grab a circle, draw out a little circle, boom, perfect. Zoom in so I can see. The reason why I'm doing this is because whenever I go to make an interaction, since that button was sort of like attached to the image, it was a part of the image, I would have had to make the whole image into an interactive element, and I don't want the whole image to be an interactive element. I just want the button to be an interactive element, so I have to recreate it as a separate entity. So that's why I'm doing this. And over here in the assets, so I was in file, I'll go to assets, and I just typed in arrow, and see if they have, well, we could just use this, but I just want an arrow left, insert, and come over to the appearance, selection colors, click on this icon default, and go to custom. You can change the arrow color. I'll make it just probably just a white to stay consistent with the other imagery. Back into my files. Okay, so arrow left is purple now because it is, I believe, a component, or this thing called a component. So let's just ignore that for a second and go ahead and drag it down next to the ellipse and highlight those, right click, and go to create component. Okay, so a component is a reusable object essentially. So if you make it into a component and you give it properties like all back buttons go to a certain place. For instance, I know that all of my back buttons are going to go to the hallway. So that's why I'm going to create a component. So whenever I link this guy to the hallway, then if I make another component, so I duplicate it and I bring this one over here, and I can even make him smaller because he needs to be a little bit smaller. Well, if I link this button to the hallway, well, now this button is also going to be linked to the hallway. So that's what's good about components. They're just reusable. All right, so all the essential imagery is done. Now let's just make the interactions and we'll call it a day. The way that you do that is you just need to go over into prototype and select the element you want to create the actual interaction with. And there's this plus button here, or you can do plus interactions here. But it's easy enough to just grab this node and drag it over, and you see this arrow, it magnetically attaches to what it's closest to. So I'm attaching it to the hallway. The interaction will be on click for me. You can also change it to on drag, while hovering, while pressed, and various things here. Ready? And then navigate to is what we want to do. Destination hallway. Animation is going to be for me dissolve, and I'm going to ease in. And I'm going to change the milliseconds to 500. And you can see an example of the animation down here. And that's all I'm going to do for that. And just to give you an example of what that does, you press play. If something's clickable, it'll change to this hand icon from arrow to hand. You can click on it and it goes to the hallway. Boom. Nothing is interactable here, as you can see, so we have to fix that. Here, we're going to make this guy go to the living room. This doorway here will go to the kitchen. All so much easier than coding, isn't it? And then our buttons will go back to the hallway. And since it's a component, we have to redo this, I believe. Oh no, it's got the dissolve ease in and 500 milliseconds. Cool. So this one should have, yep, so it's automatically got that interaction. And then the last thing that we want to do is make it all into a nice loop. So let's take this door and go back to main door. Okay, go ahead and press play. And now we'll press on our door, and this one goes to our living room. This one goes to our kitchen. And then back to our door. That's like a really quick lesson on how to just create a rapid prototype using Figma. So I almost forgot. Over here in the dev mode. Oh, this is super duper 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 awesome. The first thing that I made was my background here. So I'm just gonna click on this background. And if you come over here, when you have dev tools pulled up, I think the default is gonna have you at CSS. So you can see the CSS code here. So it's got like the width, the height, flex, shrink, and the background color here with this hexadecimal code. And if you come up here and you change this to Figma to code, you can select HTML, and this is the code block that you need. It's a div, style, width 100, height 100, background white. So that's literally this block in HTML. So you could probably copy and paste that and it'll do the same thing in Visual Studio Code. And then let's see what the door looks like. So yeah, if you click on the door, it is saying it's an image. It's got a box shadow. So this is the place where the image is located, right? So yeah, this is going to be super helpful for you to sort of figure out. So if you make this prototype here, it should be easy enough to pull it over and recreate it in Visual Studio Code, especially with the code already there for you. Wow. So good luck with the projects and let me know if y'all need anything. Happy coding.